Hello and welcome. Here's what's happening right now. Hamas responds to a proposed peace plan just hours after a threatening ultimatum from Donald Trump. Diddy sentenced, how much time he'll serve in prison.
Mark Carney knows that sometimes the principal has to get into the room to close the deal.
Plus, preparing for a high-stakes meeting at the White House.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
We begin with breaking news and a development on the war in Gaza. We are tonight hearing from Hamas in response to a Gaza peace plan following an ultimatum issued by U.S. President Donald Trump. CTV's Judy Trin is following the news for us out of Ottawa tonight. Judy, walk us through what we know so far.
Heather, Donald Trump says he wants the bombings to stop in Gaza, and Hamas has responded by saying it is willing to enter into negotiations through a mediator, but there are details that still need to be worked out. Now, this comes just hours after Donald Trump issued an ultimatum. He wrote that an agreement must be reached by Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Washington time. This is the last chance agreement, he warned. If it's not reached, all hell, like no one has seen before, will break out against Hamas. Now, just minutes ago, Trump shared Hamas's response to his peace proposal on his Instagram, on his social media post. It says, the group appreciates Arab and international efforts and the work of U.S. President calling for an end to the war on the Gaza Strip, the exchange of prisoners, the immediate entry of aid, the rejection of the occupation of the Strip, and rejection of the displacement of the Palestinian people from it. But once again, Hamas is willing to enter into negotiations, but no deal has yet been signed. But this peace proposal, Heather, was first unveiled on Monday by Trump following a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The 20-point peace plan calls for Hamas to release all 48 hostages, 20 of whom are believed to be alive. Hamas must also agree to decommission their weapons and commit to peaceful coexistence and turn over control to a Palestinian body of technocrats. In exchange, Israel would release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and gradually withdraw from Gaza, while a stabilization force led by Arab nations would take over security in the territory. Heather.
And Judy, what international support does this plan have?
This peace proposal has broad international support because the war is approaching its second anniversary. According to Palestinian health authorities, more than 60,000 people have been killed and nearly 2 million people are facing the risk of starvation. But Heather, this plan also comes about after traditional allies of Israel, including Britain, France, and Canada, decided to recognize the Palestinian state last week at the United Nations to push for a two-state solution. Heather.
That's Judy Trin for us out of Ottawa this evening on this developing story. Judy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Turning to other news, now disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison in a New York courtroom. Combs was facing 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Earlier, he was emotional while addressing the court, calling his own actions sick, saying that he was on drugs and out of control. The rapper also begged for mercy and apologized to his victims. Combs was looking at 20 years total, but prosecutors argued he deserved at least 11 years. His lawyers were asking 14 months, which has already been essentially time served. The Prime Minister is gearing up for another trip to Washington. Mark Carney is preparing to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump next week to try to find a way past the trade and tariff impasse. This will be his second trip to the White House since being elected last spring. CTV's Abigail Beeman joins us now with more on what to expect ahead of Tuesday. Abigail.
Heather, the Prime Minister will head to D.C. Monday evening ahead of a Tuesday meeting, with one source telling CTV News the Canadian side is expecting to make progress on steel and aluminum tariffs.
Why don't you just join our country? You become 51, become the 51st state.
It will be Mark Carney's second White House visit since becoming Prime Minister in a deja vu era of 51st state remarks.
As long as this continued reference to the 51st state remains foremost in the president's mind. This is not an atmosphere that is going to make these type of negotiations easy, and it's something that absolutely enrages Canadians.
But next week's visit will aim to keep trying to get a deal on punishing American tariffs, as both countries also launch consultations for the upcoming review of CUSMA. One source tells CTV News Canada is expecting progress on steel and aluminum tariffs, but not autos. In a rare public update, the top minister on the Canada-U.S. file told a Senate committee this week he's hopeful there can be a separate deal ahead of CUSMA.
I'm hoping we can get progress before the review process formally engages, but time will tell us if my optimism is misplaced.
The embassy is abuzz, Canadian embassy is abuzz with visits and people reaching out and meetings. But maybe I think Mark Carney knows that sometimes the principal has to get into the room to close the deal. And I'm hoping that Mark Carney's trip to Washington to meet with President Trump will be about a deal and not just more conversation.
In addition to LeBlanc, the foreign affairs and industry ministers will be joining the prime minister as he heads to D.C. for Tuesday's meeting. Heather?
Abigail Beeman in Ottawa. Thank you. For more on this, let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelos. Vashi, what do you think the strategy will be for Mark Carney heading into this trip to Washington?
Well, you have to think, Heather, that the strategy is not to come back empty-handed, particularly where those sector-specific tariffs that Donald Trump has levied on things like forestry, aluminum, steel, and the auto sector are concerned. That is, of course, the very punishing part of the tariff regime on Canada right now. That is to the detriment of our economy. CUSMA, the free trade agreement, is covering the bulk of everything else. Now, Dominic LeBlanc, the minister in charge of this file, has very specifically said that that is where the focus for Canada lies. So picture this, the prime minister goes to Washington, meets with Donald Trump, and comes back with no reduction in those tariffs. I think that would not play very politically well for the government, particularly because they have given up some stuff even to get to this point, even to get to this meeting, the digital services taxes, a number of counter tariffs, for example. So all of that is on the table. If that cannot secure us some kind of reduction on those sectoral tariffs, I think, as far as a strategy or the politics of all of this is concerned, you could expect the opposition to go very, very hard at the prime minister and his government. So I will be watching for any tangibles to come out of this. I'm not sure it will be enough, politically speaking, for the prime minister to go on that trip, come back and say, well, negotiations continue. There is some openness being signaled by the White House to some sectoral tariffs being reduced, particularly, for example, on aluminum, but not a whole lot on others. So the task will certainly be a challenging one. But as far as strategy goes, it has to be not to come back empty-handed. Heather?
CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelos. Thanks, Vashi. The federal government is backtracking on a decision to limit the number of Remembrance Day wreaths for MPs.
On learning that the changes could significantly disruptive to the Remembrance Day, I've instructed my department to revert to the previous format for this year.
Earlier this week, CTV News reported on the policy change based on an email from the Veterans Affairs Minister, Jill McKnight, noting that MPs requiring more than 2 wreaths would have to order them for $115 each at their own expense. In question period today, McKnight said she wouldn't be moving forward with those changes this year. Canada Post has presented a new offer to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers promising modernization.
We've also brought forward changes that will enable us to, put the transformation in place that the government has directed us to do so that we don't continue to become a drain on the taxpayers.
The proposal includes a 13% wage increase over 4 years, a defined benefit pension, health and post-retirement benefits, up to 7 weeks vacation, and a cost of living allowance. Today could mark the final school bell for Alberta students. For now, with a teacher strike set to begin Monday, classrooms may sit empty, disrupting students and leaving parents in a frantic search for childcare. CTV's Kathy Lee now on how those impacted are bracing for the chaos ahead. Kathy.
Heather, it's a stressful situation for all those impacted, as the strike will cause widespread disruption that could affect hundreds of thousands of students across the province.
As this family enjoys the autumn air, Dad's mind raking through the logistical nightmare of Monday's teacher strike.
It's very stressful situation for us.
Delor Hussein's 5-year-old daughter, Noseba, goes to kindergarten. No classes means her after-school care inside the school will get shortened, conflicting with his work schedule.
I might talk with my employer if they can give me, I can leave a little bit early to pick up them, but I'm not sure about that.
The uncertainty also looms large for the more than 700,000 students province-wide facing disruptions to their studies.
I will not be able to learn all the information for my IB exams in April, so I know me and a lot of my classmates were really stressed out about all of that.
This week, nearly 90% of Alberta Teachers Association members rejected the province's latest offer, which included a 12% wage increase over 4 years, along with funding for 3,000 new teachers and 1,500 education assistants. The ATA says it's not enough. In a statement to CTV News, the province says it wants to get back to the table to come to a fair deal for our teachers, and that it's up to ATA leadership to determine what supports teachers are actually looking for. Hussein supports the teachers and urges both sides to come to a quick resolution.
That is my big worry, that it can take months.
The provincial government has pledged to redirect money not paid to teacher salaries during the strike to support families. Beginning October 31st, parents of children 12 and under would be eligible for $30 per day or $150 per week. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
The Toronto Blue Jays and their die-hard fans nationwide are getting set for tomorrow's divisional round opener against the New York Yankees. The team announced today who will be on the mound for Game 1. CTV's Sean Leathong is in downtown Toronto with a preview and a look at all the excitement. Sean.
Heather, this is a battle of the two giants in the American League. The same record during the regular season, with the Blue Jays winning the season series against the Yankees, but the Yankees being the hottest team down the stretch. Making their mark on the field, the Rogers Center is getting ready for October baseball, and the Blue Jays are preparing to face a familiar opponent.
And the Yankees have completed step one on their...
The New York Yankees beating the Boston Red Sox in their wild card series, now coming to Toronto for the first 2 games of the American League Divisional Series. As today is workout day and the Jays transition to postseason baseball.
It's nice to win the division, it really is, and it's nice to set yourself up the way you want to. But once you get in it, man, success is about winning.
And winning is something the Jays have done a lot of this season, winning 8 of 13 games against the Yankees this year, 94 games in the regular season, and a whopping 54 wins at home. Now they hand the ball to ace Kevin Gossman for Game 1, who says the last few seasons have taught him what it means to play for Canada's team.
Extra pressure that comes with that, but there's a lot of love that comes with that from the fans, from, you know, people who might never even see you play in person. But, you know, that's just kind of the advantage that we have being one team for a whole country.
And it seems as though the whole country is focusing on the Blue Jays.
You can't walk anywhere from here to British Columbia right now without seeing Jays gear everywhere. So our players are more aware that there's a city and a country behind them.
And fans are coming from across Canada to Toronto for the series, like Rick Burton from Calgary.
It's Toronto on the name, but it's got the Canadian maple leaf on it, so it's Canada's team.
Or Adam and Jaden Lawson from Saskatchewan.
They mean everything to every province in Canada, so they're our team, they're our boys, they're going to do it.
I don't know, we're just better than the Yankees, always have been, right?
Despite being divisional rivals since 1977, the Blue Jays and the Yankees have never faced each other in the postseason. That will, of course, change at 4:08 Eastern tomorrow when the first pitch flies. Heather?
CTV's Sean Leathong for us in Toronto. Thank you. We're sticking with the baseball theme and a famous song still ahead.
You got a diamond, you got 9 men.
The man behind the tune that gets Blue Jays fans on their feet. The shutdown of the U.S. government is now in its third day and with no end in sight. Stopgap funding measures by both the Democrats and the Republicans, which would have ended the shutdown, failed to pass a vote today in the U.S. Senate. The Trump administration is now signaling that thousands of government layoffs could soon begin.
Democrats have given the administration this opportunity, and we don't like laying people off. Nobody takes joy in that around here, and if you think that, then I think that's very sad. You view the White House and our staff as wanting to put people out of work. Nobody wants to do that, but sometimes in government you have to make tough decisions.
With the Senate not expected to be in session this weekend, the bitter standoff will likely drag into next week. Drone sightings forced Germany's Munich airport to temporarily shut down overnight. Dozens of flights were canceled or diverted, leaving thousands of passengers stranded.
Why are they doing it? What do they want to provoke with this? It's strange.
This is the latest in a series of similar incidents that have disrupted European air travel after drone sightings near airports in Denmark and Norway last week, raising concerns about hybrid attacks possibly carried out by Russia, although the Kremlin denies involvement. Germany's interior minister says legislation is planned that would allow armed forces to shoot down the drones. In a historic first, a woman has been appointed as the Church of England's new Archbishop of Canterbury.
I think it's about time. Women can do anything they want, just as great as men.
It's delightful. For the first time we're going to have a woman.
Sarah Mullally is the first woman to hold the role. Mullally, a former chief nursing officer, was ordained in 2006 and made bishop in 2018. She has previously championed several liberal causes within the church, including blessings for same-sex partnerships. She will lead efforts to address declining church attendance. Coming up after this break, the reasons a growing number of Canadians are struggling with obesity. If you're watching your waistline these days, you're not alone. The reality is most Canadian adults are now classified as obese or overweight, according to new data from Statistics Canada. And there's been a significant rise in recent years. CTV's Adrienne Gabriel sifted through the numbers for us and the reasons behind them. Adrienne.
Heather, Statistics Canada is suggesting that we need to hit the track and get moving. A post-pandemic sedentary lifestyle for far too many could lead to potential long-term health complications.
Canadians' waistlines are expanding at a new record pace.
We're doing nothing but increasing in obesity rates across Canada.
Pointing to pandemic-related lifestyle changes as part of the problem, released this week, this StatsCan report monitored Canadians from 2022 to 2024. It found that 68% of those aged 18 to 79 were classified as obese due to their body mass index known as BMI.
It doesn't factor in certain things. It may be underestimating, it may be overestimating.
BMI is a weight calculation that generally factors in the body index of a Caucasian male. Doctors say it rarely distinguishes if you're a man or a woman or from a different ethnic background with a different BMI cutoff.
There wasn't a day that didn't pass my mind like, oh my God, you know, if you don't get this under control, you could die young.
At 5'2", Jennifer Isaac's weight recently topped out at 307 pounds. 4 years ago, her younger sister was hit by a drunk driver and died. Amidst the grief and stress, she turned to food.
It was just that comfort blanket. And even though we eat pretty healthy in our house, believe it or not, the weight just kept piling on. I think it has a lot to do with genetics, a lot to do with hormones.
The StatsCan survey also found that nearly half of Canadian adults have an unhealthy waistline, which could lead to serious health issues.
Type 2 diabetes, coronary artery disease, high blood pressure.
Isaac has taken control of her personal health. Losing 55 pounds over the last 6 months, she shares this message with Canadians.
Don't blame yourself because it can be a lot to do with health factors. I have post-thrombosis and endometriosis, but never ever beat yourself up about it because we're all human at the end of the day.
Doctors we spoke with say if you need to lose 5, 10, or 15 pounds, then hitting the track, the gym, and changes to your diet are key. For those who suffer from more severe obesity, medical intervention may be needed. Heather.
All right, Adrienne, thank you. Still ahead tonight, how the popularity of OK Blue Jays has stretched over decades. It's a catchy tune that will be sung right across the country this weekend. OK, Blue Jays will be ringing in the players' ears tomorrow when they take on the New York Yankees in the postseason. CTV's John Vanavalley-Rao caught up with the song's writers for more on the story behind it.
It's a staple of the seventh inning stretch whenever the Blue Jays play at home. A song that's been around for more than 40 years.
You got a diamond, you got 9 men.
And one musician, Jack Lenz, helped to compose in a single afternoon back in 1982.
And that's not all. Yeah, it was an afternoon, a couple hours.
Back then, Lenz and songwriting partner Tony Kosnick were asked to come up with a commercial to help market the Blue Jays to people who may not be baseball fans, which included Lenz and Kosnick, who'd never been to a big league game.
Neither of us were qualified to write that song.
Lenz says then Blue Jays executive Paul Beeston met with him and told the pair, when writing the song, to take into consideration the team was just 5 years old.
He didn't want to promise too much, so we could say they were okay. That was exact words. But fortunately, okay rhymed with Blue Jays, right?
They figured the song they came up with would last about a year, but it was released as a record that eventually went gold, selling more than 50,000 copies.
This is original.
This goes back to 1982.
Yeah.
Lenz showing us the sheet music that's now a piece of Blue Jays history.
You got the bleachers. You got them from spring till fall.
A song that featured the voice of musician Keith Hampshire.
A little OK Blue Jays.
Who says almost no one knows it's him singing the lyrics.
I go to the ball games now with my grandson, and when he was little, he used to look at me and go, "Is that you, Papa?" I go, "Yeah, that's me, son."
Hampshire is a big Jays fan and pleased the song lives on.
Okay.
And like Lenz, hoping the team is more than just okay in the playoffs.
Let's.
John Vanavalley-Rao, CTV News.
Crack.
Toronto.
And we will be hearing it all weekend long. It's such a catchy tune. It's so nice to learn a little history behind the song. That is our newscast for this Friday. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Of course, I will be back later tonight with CTV National News at 11. I hope you can join us. I'm Heather Butts. Your local CTV News starts right now. Take care for now.